The Torah Teacher. The Talmud does not relate anything about Jesus' life until his very end, his violent death. It does have, however, some false notion of him as a Torah teacher, and this is quite in accordance with Jesus' portrayal in the New Testament, in particular the so-called Sermon on the Mount in Matthew chapter 5 until 7, according to Luke chapter 19, verse 47. Jesus was teaching every day in the temple, and the chief priests, the scribes, and the leaders of the people kept looking for a way to kill him. One story in the Bavli presents Jesus as such a Torah teacher in dialogue with the contemporary rabbis, and even preserves his halakhic exegesis. In the typical rabbinic fashion, his teaching is transmitted through the mouth of one of his faithful students. However, what is striking here is the fact that the story is not concerned with Jesus himself, and also very little with the student, but rather with a supposed rabbinic follower of Jesus and his teachings. In other words, that it attacks the Christian sect to the mirror of the rabbinic perception of Christianity. The story appears in Bavli Avoda Zara 16b, 17a, but this time we are in the possession of earlier Palestinian parallels. As I translate the Bavli version according to the Vilna edition, and will refer to the foreign readings in the Bavli manuscripts as well as in the parallels where necessary. Or Rabbi taught, when Rabbi Eliezer was arrested because of heresy minute, they brought him up to the tribune to be judged. The Roman governor Hegemon said to him, "How can an old man like you occupy himself with such idle things?" Here Rabbi Eliezer said, "I acknowledge the judge as reliable Naaman." Since the governor thought that he referred to him, though he really referred to his Father in heaven, he said to him, "Because you have acknowledged me as reliable, Demetrius, you are acquitted." When Rabbi Eliezer came home, his disciples arrived to comfort him, but he would accept no consolation. Said Rabbi Aqiva to him, "Master, will you permit me to say one thing of what you have taught me?" He answered, said, Aqiva said to him, "Master, perhaps you encountered some kind of heresy minute, and you enjoyed it, and because of that you were arrested." Here Rabbi Eliezer answered him, "Aqiva, you reminded me, once I was walking in the upper market of Sepphoris, when I came across one of the disciples of Jesus of Nazareth, and Jacob of Schäfer Shechania was his name. Jacob said to me, 'It is written in your Torah, you shall not bring the hire of the harlot of the pay of a dog into the house of the Lord your God.' Deuteronomy chapter 23, verse 19. By such manner be used to making a latrine for the high priest, to which I made no reply. Jacob said to me, Thus was I taught by Jesus the Nazarene. For from the hire of a harlot was excreted, and to the hire of a harlot shall it return. Micah chapter 1 verse 7. It came from a place of filth, and let it return to a place of filth. This word pleased me very much, and that is why I was arrested for heresy minute, because I transgressed what is written in the Torah. Keep your way far from her. Proverbs chapter 5 verse 8. This refers to heresy minute, and do not come near to the door of her house, ibid. This refers to the ruling power Rashut. These are some who say, "Keep your way from her." Proverbs chapter 5 verse 8. This refers to heresy and the ruling power, and do not come near to the door of her house, ibid. This refers to the harlot. And how far is one to keep away? Rav Hizda said, 4 cubits. This strange story, marked by its introductory formula as a Baraita, and has an early Palestinian tradition, leaves more questions open than need answers. First of all, It remains completely unclear why Rabbi Eliezer was arrested and what the heresy was of which the Roman governor suspected him. Rabbi Eliezer is a famous Eliezer by Hyrcanus, led 1st and 2nd century CE, the father disciple of Rabban Yohanan bin Zakkai, and the paragon of rabbinic sin and determination. The Roman authorities, however, certainly did not arrest him for nothing, yet the only accusation we hear from the trial is that he was occupying himself with such idle things. The accused even does not bother to defend himself. He simply puts his faith into the hands of the heavenly judge. The earthly judge, believing that the accused rebels to him, acquits the rabbi. What can the idle things happen with which the rabbi was occupying himself and which provoked the wrath of the Roman authorities? Strange enough, Rabbi Eliezer does not know himself of what he was accused, and he needs one of his students, Aqiva, to remind him. Even worse, the rabbi seems to accept the accusation because instead of being happy about his obviously unexpected release, he needs to be comforted for what is did. A clue to that mistaken accusation may be found in an edition that is preserved only in the Tosefta Hulin version of our story. There the governor says, "Since you have deemed me reliable for yourself, so thus I have set guilt the misuse you are acquitted." Unfortunately, what precisely the governor says before he reaches his conclusion of the misuse is difficult to understand. The Hebrew text reads, "Efsar sibo halalu to'im badevarim halalu," and the crucial word is sibo, which does not make much sense in the present context. Scholars there have therefore suggested the conjecture Sevot halalu from seva grey hair. Hence, is it possible that these grey hairs should err in such matters? Whereupon the answer is obviously not. Therefore, the misuse you are acquitted. The problem with this conjecture is that it requires the addition of one letter that is not attested in the manuscripts Sibel, Seha, Sevot, and moreover that it does not help us to understand the decision of the governor any better just because the rabbi sought, and he must be acquitted of what evidently was a grave accusation. Meyer has suggested a quite plausible different solution. He proposes to read the problematic word as the verb hasebu and translates, "Is it possible that Rabbi Eliezer and his friends were lying down for a meal, reclining for dining in company?" This accuses with regard to these matters, therefore the misuse you are acquitted interpreted this way. The Roman governor acquits Rabbi Eliezer of participating in a forbidden meal symposium, either a Christian Arabi or some kind of orgiastic cult bacchanalia, or both, because the Christian meal could easily be misunderstood as a mysterious and conspiratorial cult with orgiastic rites. The heresy minute of which he was accused by some anonymous informers could therefore have been membership in the forbidden cult Christianity, a serious accusation demanding the intervention of the Roman authorities. If this was indeed the case, nothing in the supposedly heretical teaching that Rabbi Eliezer hears from Jacob in the name of Jesus ben Pandera and enjoys so much support such an accusation. Let us have a closer look at the section in Kohelet Rabbah, which is more detailed and more coherent. Dear Jacob, in the name of Jesus, I use as follows. Jacob, it is written in your Torah, you shall not bring the hire of a harlot or the prey of a dog into the house of the Lord your God in payment for any vow, both in this are abhorrent to the Lord your God. Deuteronomy chapter 23 verse 19. What is to be done with them, the money? Rabbi Eliezer told him, they prohibited for use. He, Jacob, said to me, they are prohibited as an offering, but it is permissible to dispose of them. I answered, in that case, what is it to be done with them? He said to me, let both houses and privies be made with them. I answered, you have well spoken, because this particular halakha escaped my memory for the moment. When he saw that I acknowledged his words, he said to me, thus said so and so Plony, for from field they came, and to field shall they go out, on the field they shall be expended, as it is said, for from the hire of a harlot was gathered, and to the hire of a harlot shall it return. Micah chapter 1 verse 7. Let them be spent on privies for the public. This interpretation pleased me, and on that account I was arrested for heresy minute. This is a well-argued and perfectly acceptable halakha. The Bible prohibits that money gained for prostitution may be used to buy an offering in the temple in order to redeem a fool. The question that arises is whether this money is forbidden only for cultic purposes but can be used for some other purposes, or whether it is prohibited altogether. Rabbi Eliezer, expressing the most stringent halakhic view, prohibits the prostitution money altogether, whereas Jesus Jacob takes the more lenient approach and permits the money to be spent in the public interest to build with it but houses and babies. Both with houses and babies are institutions that deal with the disposal of wealth, and what better use could be made with money that owes its origins to fill. The Bavli almost ironically goes a step further. The money may even be used for building a privy for the high priest, presumably on the side of the temple. Rabbi Eliezer not only accepts Jacob Jesus' halakhic ruling but enjoys in particular the biblical proof. The biblical proof text Micah chapter 1 verse 7 in explication to the present case. There is nothing peculiarly Christian about this halakhic discourse. That one rabbi expresses a more stringent and his opponent a more lenient view is commonplace, as is the result that the more lenient decision becomes the accepted one. So shall we dismiss Rabbi Eliezer on discovery that he was convicted of heresy because he enjoyed this particular halakhic exposition as completely unreliable? To answers to this question are possible that do not exclude but mutually supplement each other. The first and quite obvious answer is that the question of whether or not the contents of the halakha as such point to Christianity is really irrelevant. The biblical command, remove your way far from her, and do not come near to the door of her house. Proverbs chapter 5 verse 8 reverts according to Rabbi Eliezer out interpretation to heresy and the ruling Roman prayer. He transgressed this verdict in getting involved with someone who was known as a student of Jesus and notorious for his heretical views. In other words, it is not important what has been said and taught, but rather who did it. Even if the teachings of the heretic are concordant with the rabbis, and hence halakhic correct, this does not matter. They are invalid and dangerous because they come from a heretic. But still, even if any contact with a heretic is forbidden, the correctness of their halakhic deductions Notwithstanding, this does not seem to be the full story. If we take a closer look at the biblical verse from Proverbs chapter 5, verse 8, we may discover a deeper meaning. This verse, with which Rabbi Eliezer concludes his obsessing in all three versions of our story, originally refers to the strange or loose woman, the prostitute whose lips drip honey, but who at his death, chapter 5, verse 3 until 5. The Tosefta version does not interpret the verse explicitly, but both the Bavli and Kohelet Rabbah relate one part of the verse to heresy and the other part to prostitution. In other words, if we take the proof text literally, Rabbi Eliezer admits that his guilt consists of a heresy that is connected to prostitution. This interpretation reinforces the reading of Tosefta ruling when Rabbi Eliezer was suspected of getting involved not just with prostitutes but in was a strict and pious rabbi of participating in sexual urges. The continuation of the loose woman's description in Proverbs is even more conspicuous. In chapter 7, she is explicitly called a prostitute who lies in wait for the young man to seduce him. Proverbs chapter 7, verse 11 to 15. She is loud and wayward, her feet do not stay at home. Now in the street, now in the squares, and at every corner she lies in wait. She says him and kisses him, and with impudent face she says to him, I have to offer sacrifices, and today I have paid my vows. So now I come out to meet you, to seek you eagerly, and I have found you. The scholarly description of a prostitute is all the more remarkable in our context, as it establishes a quite unexpected connection between her seductive behavior and the temple offering. The very connection Deuteronomy chapter 23 verse 19 prohibits and with Jacob Jesus halakhic exegesis in our story gives. This can hardly be by coincidence. It seems therefore that the editor of our story was to imply to these first, Rabbi Eliezer was indeed accused of being a member of a forbidden or justice sect, and second, in allegedly getting involved with a prostitute who pays with her works wages for her temple offering, he infringes Jesus and his own halakha, according to which such money must not be used for purposes related to the temple. Scholars have tried hard to connect the historical Rabbi Eliezer ben Hyrcanus with nascent Christianity at the end of the first and the beginning of the second century CE. They assume that Jacob, the disciple of Jesus, could have been either Jesus' brother James, Mark chapter 6 verse 3, Matthew chapter 13 verse 55, or Jesus' disciple James, the son of Alphaeus, Mark chapter 3 verse 18, Matthew chapter 10 verse 3, Luke chapter 6 verse 15, Acts chapter 1 verse 13, chapter 15 verse 13, and that Eliezer's trial has to do with the persecutions of the Christians in the early 2nd century CE. This, however, presupposes quite a chronological stretch, because the encounter with Jacob James in Sepphoris must have taken place much earlier than the trial. If Jacob is James, the son of Alphaeus, the latter was thought around 62 CE. Not only must much time have passed between the heretical conspiracy in Sepphoris and the trial, but Rabbi Eliezer must have lived to a very old age when he finally was put on trial, not to mention the fact that it took the Roman authorities unseemingly long to prosecute his crime. Such a historical reconstruction of Rabbi Eliezer's heresy and inclination toward Christianity is not very likely and an easy victim for Meyer's scholarly acumen. It is highly probable that our story reflects an encounter between the historical Rabbi Eliezer and a historical disciple of Jesus in the city of Severus in Galilee, let alone that the halakhic decision with regard to the hire of the harlot refers to an authentic saying of Jesus. But again, this is not what is at stake here. The reputation of such cute and positivistic historicity does not mean that the story does not reflect some kind of reality, more precisely some rabbinic awareness, Jesus and Christianity. The name of Jesus Pandera, Jesus the Nazarene, is well attested in the manuscripts, and Meyer's attempts to throw it out of the text or to declare it as later additions are rather forced. It is therefore plausible to argue that the story has indeed something to do with Jesus' teachings, and that Rabbi Eliezer's heresy does refer to Christianity. The real question therefore is, what precisely is this reality with regard to Christianity that the rabbinic sources reveal, according to Boyarin, who boldly and without further ado takes it for granted that Rabbi Eliezer was arrested for Christianity. A story reflects that early rabbinic discourse with the emerging Christianity, which was still regarded as a part of Judaism, it simultaneously attraction to and repulsion from Christianity. Rabbi Eliezer is the very figure of liminality, who personifies the tension between rabbinic Judaism and Christianity. Through him, the rabbis are both recognizing and denying at one and the same time that Christians are us, marking out the virtual identity between themselves and the Christians in the world at the same time that they are very actively seeking to establish difference. This is certainly correct, and Boyarin takes great pains to assure the readers that he does not follow of a simplistic positivistic models, but rather new methodologies according to which Rabbi Eliezer no longer is historical character in the 1st century, but a fictional character in the 3rd century, and that he draws historical conclusions not about events, but about ideologies, social movements, cultural constructions, and particularly repressions. Nobody would want to object to such an approach today, not even as the firm and probably historical fact is at stake, but what has developed around the event in all its complexity and historical ramifications. Yet, we should not draw too firm a line between the historical and the fictional character, between the event and the cultural construction. Both belong closely together, and even at the risk of relapsing into the bad habits of positivism, I want to posit that the rabbis with their stories, including the present one, reveal more than just the awareness and the recognition of the breaking of Christianity from the common ground of rabbinic Judaism. Rather, this awareness and recognition are not abstract constructs, but deeply grounded in the reality and the experience of what happened. Both can and need to be described in fuller detail. As far as the stories about Jesus and his followers are concerned, they indeed reveal some knowledge of the Christian sect of its hero, and this knowledge is not just distorted and false hodgepodge of this and that, but a well-designed attack against what the rabbis experienced as the reality of the Jewish Christian message. Keeping these methodological considerations in mind, let us briefly review the Eliezer story again. It combines two strands that both in their own way respond to the New Testament narrative. The first strand, the core of the story, is the charge against Rabbi Eliezer, the last Christian heretic, of prostitution sexual urges. This accusation fits in very well with what we have heard so far about Jesus himself, that was the illegitimate child of his mother Miriam's liaison with the Roman soldier Pandera, that he himself led quite an incident life, and that he was excommunicated by his teacher because of his frivolous thoughts. Jesus and sexual offense seem to be a recurrent theme in the later Talmudic treatment of Christianity, and the Eliezer story in the earliest evidence of this motive. There it is not directed, however, against Jesus himself, but against his followers. We will see that this particular variation tallies with a fragment of anti-Christian polemics quoted by early Christian authors of the 2nd century CE. In any case, this trend of the Eliezer story is very close to what perceived as the historical reality of the emerging Jewish Christianity. The second strand, aptly emphasized by Boyarin, following Lieberman and Goodman, is more indirect and becomes obvious only when we have a closer look at the rabbinic persona of Rabbi Eliezer ben Hyrcanos. Rabbi Eliezer is famous for his clash with his rabbinic colleagues regarding a complicated but relatively minor halakhic question, the structure of the Ark often. When his colleagues disapprove of his argument, he resorts to some unorthodox methods. It has been thought on that day Rabbi Eliezer used every imaginable argument, but they, his colleagues, did not accept them from him. He said to them, "If the halakha agrees with me, let this cardboard tree prove it." Thereupon the cardboard tree was uprooted from its place 100 cubits, or the report 400 cubits. They retorted, "No proof can be brought from a cardboard tree." Again he said to them, "If the halakha again agrees with me, let the stream of water prove it." Whereupon the stream of water flowed backwards. They retorted, "No proof can be brought from a stream of water." Again he said to them, "If the halakha agrees with me, let the walls of the schoolhouse prove it." Whereupon the walls of the schoolhouse inclined to fall. But Rabbi Yehoshua rebuked them, saying, "When the scholars are engaged in a halakhic dispute, what have you interfered?" Hence they did not fall in honor of Rabbi Yehoshua, nor did they resume their pride in honor of Rabbi Eliezer, and they are still stand thus in creed. Again he said to them, "If the halakha agrees with me, let it be proved from heaven." Whereupon a heavenly choice but called cried out, "Why do you dispute with Rabbi Eliezer? Because in all matters the halakha agrees with him." Whereupon Rabbi Yehoshua rose and said, "See, the Torah is not in heaven." Deuteronomy chapter 13 verse 12. Deuteronomy chapter 13 verse 12. What does it mean? She is not in heaven. Rabbi Yirmiyah said, "Since the Torah has already been given a Mount Sinai, we pay no attention to a heavenly voice, because you God have long since written the Torah at Mount Sinai, after the majority must one incline." Exodus chapter 23 verse 2. What is going on here? An initially routine halakhic dispute among rabbis, among rabbis on a not particularly important question, which of course Rabbi Eliezer cannot accept himself in this dispute, and resorts to the strongest means that he has at his disposal: magic. He moves a carrot tree, lets a stream of water flow backward, threatens to destroy the schoolhouse in which the rabbis are gathered, and finally gets and approval from heaven, but not to a field, but to no avail. His scholars are not impressed by his magic and declare clearly that halakhic matters are not decided by magic. And as far as the heretic voice is concerned, they declare even more clearly that God does not interfere in this matter because He has given the Torah to His creatures and the power to decide in case of conflict to the rabbis. So, what is at stake here is sovereign halakhic reasoning according to the decision of the majority versus magic, and the message is rabbinic authority rests on rabbinic rules of the game, not on magic, not even when approved by heaven. In trying to overrule the halakhic consensus of his colleges with his magical tricks and the intervention of heaven, Rabbi Eliezer infringes the essence of rabbinic authority. Accordingly, he is most severely punished with the worst punishment the rabbis have at their disposal, and which, as many scholars have observed, is completely out of proportion to the importance of the halakhic dispute, excommunication. It was said, on that very day, all objects will on that very day, all objects which Rabbi Eliezer had declared clean were brought and burned in fire as unclean. Then they took a vote and excommunicated him. The rabbis and Rabbi Aqiva, one of the greatest scholars of his generation, to inform Rabbi Eliezer on the horrible decision because someone less respected and tactful might provoke his unbridled wrath and cause him to release his magical powers and to destroy the world. Rabbi Aqiva does a great job in carrying out his delicate mission, but still, when Rabbi Eliezer releases what his colleagues did to him, he too rent his garments, put off his shoes, remove his seat, sat on the earth, and tears streamed from his eyes. The world has then smitten a third of the olive crop, a third of the wheat, and a third of the barley crop. Some say even the dough in women's hands was swelled up. It has been taught, great was the calamity that befell the day, for everything at which Rabbi Eliezer cast his eyes was burned up. Even in his defeat, Rabbi Eliezer proved once more his magical power, and that the rabbis were right in excommunicating him, unless they wanted to yield their authority to miracle workers and magicians. Rabbi Eliezer's unruly magical power, which threatened the authority of the rabbis and therefore in this sequence the existence of the world, needed to be kept in check, and indeed was kept in check until his death. In portraying him as a dangerous arch-magician, the rabbis modeled Rabbi Eliezer along the lines of the other arch-magician who threatened the authority. Jesus, in other words, Rabbi Eliezer, becomes the rabbinic doppelganger of Jesus. He combines in his person and life two major strands of the rabbinic perception of Jesus in his followers: sexual excess and magical power. Hence, it is not just the painful process of the breaking off of Christianity from Judaism which becomes apparent here. Rather, we get a glimpse at the weapons that the rabbinic Jews used in order not only to demarcate themselves from Christian Jews, but to fight against them with all the means at their disposal. And a fight to the death it was, because even the Roman government acquitted Rabbi Eliezer of the charge of sexual orgies, and even heaven approved of his use of magic against rabbinic reasoning, of anarchic and destructive power against sober interpretation of the Torah of Christianity, against the rabbinic version of Judaism. Indeed, the Christians are as Boyarin says, but this is the message of the Eliezer story. They need to be unmasked and defeated once and for all.